I am going to tell you exactly what happened on the night of March 14th. But before I do, I need you to understand one thing. I have been in that building alone hundreds of times. I have prepared over 400 bodies in 3 years. I have worked through power outages, through equipment failures, through every kind of night that job produces. I have never once been afraid in that building, until the night something in it already knew who I was. My name is Daniel. I'm 31 years old, and I have worked in hospital morgue services since I was 28. I know what you're thinking, that it must be a strange job, a dark job, something that leaves marks on a person. And maybe it does, in ways I haven't fully accounted for yet. But the honest truth is that I took the job because the hours worked for me, and the pay was decent, and I was good at it. I am methodical by nature, detail-oriented, the kind of person who triple-checks documentation and notices when something is 2 millimeters out of place. My mother used to say I had been born with an old man's temperament, calm, steady, not easily rattled. She said it like a compliment, and I took it as one. She passed away 2 years before that night, which matters for reasons I'll explain later. Reasons I still have difficulty putting into words. The one habit she always teased me about was the humming. I hum when I'm nervous. Not a real song, just a low, tuneless sound, barely audible, something I do without realizing it. My mother noticed it when I was maybe 7 or 8 years old and pointed it out. And after that I became aware of it the way you become aware of something only after someone names it for you. She used to hum back at me when she caught me doing it, just to let me know she noticed, just to let me know she was there. I hadn't thought about that in a long time before March 14th. It was a Thursday. I came in at 10 and did my standard intake check. 6 bodies in storage that night, all properly documented, all in order, temperatures normal, paperwork caught up, a transfer scheduled for early morning, otherwise nothing unusual on the board. I settled in for what I expected to be a quiet night. I want to stop here and tell you something, because it matters for what comes later. I did not feel anything unusual when I walked in that night. No instinct, no unease, no sense that something was wrong. I have heard people describe a feeling they get before something bad happens. A heaviness, a wrongness in the air. I felt none of that. The building felt exactly like it always felt, which is part of what made everything that followed so difficult to process. If I had felt something, I could have left. I didn't feel anything until it was already too late to matter. At midnight, I did my first walkthrough of the cold storage area. Standard procedure, visual check of the drawers, temperatures, tags. I was almost finished with the row when I noticed drawer 4 was not fully closed, not open, not hanging, just not flush with the others, maybe an inch of gap. I pushed it closed, checked the latch, and moved on. Small thing, easily explained. Old building, old equipment, latches that didn't always catch properly. I filed it mentally and forgot about it within minutes. That was the first mistake. Back at the desk, I worked through paperwork for about 40 minutes. The room was quiet the way it always is at that hour. The particular silence of a space that is underground, windowless, separated from the rest of the hospital by 2 sets of heavy doors. I had stopped noticing that silence years ago. It was just the texture of the place. At 12:40 I heard something, faint, brief, gone almost immediately, a sound like fabric shifting or air moving in a contained space. I sat still and listened. Nothing followed it. I went back to my paperwork. 7 minutes later, I know the exact time because I looked at the clock the moment I heard it. The sound came again. Different this time. Lower. The kind of sound a person makes when they shift their weight slightly. A small compression. A soft settling. I got up and did another walk through. Everything looked exactly as I had left it. I stood in the middle of the storage room for a full minute, just listening. Complete silence. I told myself it was the building. Old buildings breathe. I went back to the desk. I want to be honest about my state of mind at that point. I was alert, the way anyone gets when they hear an unexplained sound in a quiet space. But I was not afraid. I trusted that room. 3 years of being alone in it had made it feel like mine. That trust did not survive the next hour. At 1:15, my phone buzzed. A text message. Unsaved number. Just a string of digits I didn't recognize. I almost dismissed it without reading it properly. But I read it. Daniel, you should check drawer 4 again. I've been waiting for you to notice. I sat completely still for several seconds. My first thought was a prank. Someone who knew my number and knew where I worked, messing around at 1 in the morning. I work with people who would find that funny. I almost texted back asking which one of them it was. But something stopped me. The name. My name at the beginning of the message. Not a greeting, not a joke set up. Just my name, placed there the way you place someone's name when you want them to understand you know exactly who they are. I got up and walked back into the cold storage room. Drawer 4 was open, not an inch this time, several inches, far enough that the internal latch had clearly disengaged, the way a drawer opens when something pushes against it from inside. I stood in the doorway and looked at that drawer from across the room for a long time, without approaching it. I don't know exactly how to describe what I felt in that moment. It wasn't the slow unease of earlier. It was something that arrived all at once, fully formed. A cold, complete certainty that something was wrong, in a way I did not have the framework to process. My body understood it before my brain did. My hands were already cold. My breathing had already changed. I made myself walk to the drawer. I checked the tag. Male, 63, natural causes, admitted 2 days prior, full documentation in order. I had checked this drawer myself at the beginning of my shift. Everything had been exactly as it should be. I closed the drawer, made sure the latch was fully engaged this time, pressed it until I heard the click, and then I stood there in that storage room, and I did something I had never done in 3 years of working in that building. I listened for breathing that wasn't mine. Back at the desk, I pulled up the intake record for drawer 4 and went through it line by line. Nothing irregular. I tried to build a rational explanation for the text message. Someone in the building who could see the drawer on a camera feed. A colleague with access I wasn't aware of. A glitch in the latch mechanism, and a prank that happened to coincide with it. None of those explanations held. There were no cameras in the cold storage room. There was no way anyone outside that room could have known the drawer had opened. And the text had come before I went to check. It had told me to check, not reported that something had happened. Whoever sent that message already knew. That was when I noticed I was humming. Low, tuneless, barely audible. The sound I make when I'm nervous. The habit my mother used to catch me in when I was 7 years old. I had been doing it without realizing it. For how long? I didn't know. Long enough that it had become the background sound of the room. Long enough for someone to hear it. At 1:52, my phone buzzed again. Same number. You always hum when you're nervous. You've been doing it for the last 10 minutes. She used to hum back at you, didn't she? The room tilted. Not literally, but something happened to my perception of the space I was in. Some fundamental shift in how it felt to be sitting in that chair, in that room, underground, alone. Because that sentence, she used to hum back at you, was not something anyone could have known. It was not something I had ever told a colleague. It was not something I had ever written down or posted or shared. It was a private memory between me and a woman who had been dead for 2 years. I called security without putting the phone down. The guard arrived in 4 minutes. We swept both rooms, main area, storage, supply closet, bathroom. We found nobody. Every entrance was secured. The keycard access log showed no entries or exits other than mine since 10 p.m. The guard looked at my phone, read both messages, wrote down the number. The number was traced the next day. Prepaid burner phone, purchased with cash 3 weeks prior from a convenience store 2 towns over. The store's camera system had been down for maintenance the night of the purchase. No footage, no identifiable buyer, no trail. The case went nowhere. I transferred to a different facility 6 weeks later. I still work in the field, but I work days now, in a larger building, with cameras in every room, including storage. I have not worked a night shift since March 14th, and I do not intend to. What I think about is the second message, not the drawer. I can almost rationalize the drawer if I try hard enough. But the second message. She used to hum back at you, didn't she? Nobody knew that. Nobody living, anyway. I've spent a long time trying to figure out who sent those messages. I've gone through every person who had my number, every colleague, every person who knew where I worked. I have considered every explanation I can construct. I keep coming back to the same wall. Whoever was in that building on March 14th knew my name before they contacted me. They knew my habit. They knew my mother. They knew something about my private life that I have never shared with anyone. And they were close enough to hear me humming in an underground room at 2 a.m. I don't know what they wanted. I don't know why they chose that night. I don't know how they got in or how they got out without leaving a trace in the access logs. I don't know why they knew about my mother. That last part is the thing I can't put down, because there is only one explanation that covers all of it. The name, the humming, the memory, and it is an explanation I am not able to say out loud without feeling like I am losing my grip on something I need to hold on to. So I won't say it, but I think you already know what it is.